Continuing to reign supreme as the most commercially successful Rolls-Royce ever built, the Silver Shadow and corresponding Bentley T-Series truly democratized this most prestigious of brands by creating a machine that combined the firm's renowned luxury with a driver-orientated performance that made it far more appealing to a new generation of owners who demanded more from these beautiful cars. However, the Silver Shadow, while initially the company's barnstormer of the 1960s, would go on to represent the company's stagnation and decline during the 1970s, with the car remaining on sale for 15 years without any significant modifications, and while various replacements were mooted, the financial difficulties faced by Rolls-Royce during this period meant that this machine would continue to go on, even through the underpinnings of its spiritual successors during the 1980s. During early 1954, as the Silver Cloud was being meticulously refined in preparation for its public debut the following year, senior engineers at Rolls-Royce had already turned their attention towards what would succeed it, and while the Silver Cloud itself represented a careful evolution of Rolls-Royce's established design philosophy, there was growing recognition within the company's leadership that its long-standing method of constructing motor cars, employing a separate chassis onto which coach-built bodies were mounted, was steadily becoming a relic of a bygone era. This method, which had been the foundation of every Rolls-Royce motor car since the company's inception in 1906, had provided flexibility for coach builders and ensured the renowned smoothness of ride that Rolls-Royce owners had come to expect, but technological progress and changing customer expectations were beginning to render such an approach increasingly obsolete. The post-war world was witnessing a significant transformation in automotive design and production, and while the traditional clientele for Rolls-Royce remained loyal, there was an emerging generation of luxury car buyers who desired something more contemporary, with these new customers beginning to value not only the grandeur and refinement that defined the marque, but also improved drivability, maneuverability, and efficiency, seeking vehicles that could navigate the narrower, busier streets of modern cities without compromising the spaciousness, comfort, or refinement that Rolls-Royce represented. With this challenge posed, the engineering solution lay in adopting monocoque construction, a design philosophy in which the body and floor plan were integrated into a single unified shell, with this approach allowing for superior packaging, with the suspension, drivetrain, and other mechanical components carried on subframes attached to the front and rear. The advantages of such a structure were considerable, as it permitted a reduction in external dimensions while simultaneously increasing interior volume, improving structural rigidity, reducing weight, and enhancing the vehicle's handling and ride characteristics, and recognizing the transformative potential of this construction method, Rolls-Royce committed to it, fully aware of the enormous financial investment it required in new tooling and production techniques. Development of the new model, which carried the internal designation of SY, commenced in earnest in 1958, and the initial experimental prototypes were built in two primary configurations, one featuring a 126-inch wheelbase, while the other was shortened by 6.5 inches, and after extensive testing and evaluation, the engineering team determined that the more compact variant best met the company's objectives, striking the optimal balance between external manageability and interior spaciousness. The immense responsibility of styling the new car fell to John Blatchley, who had joined Rolls-Royce in 1940 from the renowned coach builder Gurney Nutting, with Blatchley's task being nothing short of daunting, as he was charged with creating a design that was thoroughly modern, yet unmistakably Rolls-Royce, and timeless enough to sustain a production run of at least 10 years in order to amortize the considerable capital costs associated with monocoque construction. Although the proven 6.2-litre V8 engine and high dramatic 4-speed automatic transmission, familiar from the Silver Cloud 3, were carried over, nearly every other component of the car was entirely new, with the adoption of the monocoque architecture allowing the car to be both shorter and narrower than its predecessor, while paradoxically offering more generous accommodation for passengers and luggage, as well as a larger fuel tank to extend touring range. The greatly enhanced torsional rigidity of the unified structure contributed to a quieter and more stable ride, while vibrashock mountings were employed to isolate the passenger compartment from road-induced noise and vibrations, while features such as power-operated gear selectors and electric seat adjustments further enhanced the sense of effortless luxury. In pursuit of the supreme ride quality for which Rolls-Royce was famed, the company sought inspiration beyond its own walls, and recognizing Citroen's advanced work on hydropneumatic suspension systems, Rolls-Royce negotiated a licensing agreement to adapt and refine this technology for its own purposes, with a resultant self-leveling suspension system, uniquely modified in crew to include conventional coil springs, ensuring that ride height remained constant irrespective of load or road surface. Initially, both the front and rear suspension systems employed self-leveling technology, but ongoing analysis revealed that the rear system alone was sufficient, leading to the front system's deletion from 1969 onwards, while braking was similarly modernized, with four-wheel disc brakes replacing the drum brakes used on previous models, providing superior stopping power and greater safety. Throughout the late 1950s and into the early 1960s, development continued at pace, with numerous prototypes undergoing rigorous testing. These developmental projects being internally referred to as Tibet for the Rolls-Royce version and Burma for the Bentley counterpart, while the design team experimented extensively with various styling treatments, including differing interpretations of the grille and window arrangements, as they worked to refine the car's final appearance, among these being an unconventional wraparound windscreen and reverse-angle rear door windows. At one stage, Rolls-Royce also engaged in exploratory discussions with the British Motor Corporation, or BMC, with a view to producing a smaller, more affordable Bentley using BMC underpinnings, with Blatchley himself even producing design studies based on a modified Van Pla Princess saloon, intended to accommodate the Bentley's distinctive radiator grille between stacked lamps, with this proposed offshoot, codenamed Java, advancing through several iterations, but ultimately failed to reach production, as both engineering and commercial considerations rendered the venture impractical. Concurrently, the company recognized that the traditional network of independent coach builders upon which it had long relied was diminishing, necessitating greater self-sufficiency in the production of specialized body styles, and in response, Rolls-Royce took the strategic decision to expand its in-house coach-building capabilities by acquiring Mulliner Park Ward in 1959. This acquisition enabled the company to produce bespoke two-door fixed-head coupés and convertibles based on the forthcoming SY platform, ensuring that customers who valued the individuality previously offered by independent coach builders could continue to obtain highly personalized vehicles directly from the factory. As mentioned, the new model retained the well-proven and highly refined 6.2-litre L-Series V8 engine, an all-aluminium overhead valve V8, which had earned a reputation for both its smooth operation and considerable durability, and although the precise output figures were never officially publicized by the factory, with Rolls-Royce famously preferring to describe their engines as delivering adequate power, the unit was understood to produce approximately 172 horsepower. This output, while modest by some contemporary standards, was more than sufficient to provide the SY with ample acceleration and an effortless ability to maintain high cruising speeds, even under the most demanding conditions of motorway or continental touring, with the engine's substantial low-end torque being particularly well suited to the car's intended role as a refined and unhurried luxury vehicle, enabling it to surge forward with little more than a gentle application of the throttle. This engine was initially coupled to a 4-speed hydromatic automatic transmission, a robust and sophisticated unit manufactured under license from General Motors, with this gearbox featuring an aluminium casing and a series of internal modifications intended to deliver even smoother operation than the standard American version, with the seamless operation of this transmission making gear changes almost imperceptible to driver and passengers alike. The interior of the SY range remained entirely faithful to Rolls-Royce's long-standing tradition of lavish craftsmanship, with the passenger compartment being adorned with extensive use of highly polished real wood veneers and finely grained leather, painstakingly hand-fitted and finished by skilled craftsmen at Crewe, while the front seats were electrically adjustable, with controls allowing movement both fore and aft as well as vertically, providing an unprecedented level of comfort for the driver and front passenger, and power-operated windows and door locks were included as standard equipment. Initially, the model had been intended to carry the name Silver Mist, continuing Rolls-Royce's long tradition of evocative names incorporating the word silver. However, it was soon discovered that mist translated rather unfortunately into the German slang for manure, leading to a last-minute change, and the name Silver Shadow was adopted instead. Concurrently to the Silver Shadow, as had been the tradition of Rolls-Royce since its acquisition of the firm in 1931, was the release of a Bentley equivalent, with the Bentley T-Series being conceived as a parallel model that was virtually identical mechanically, but bore Bentley's more understated badging, grille, and minor trim differences, catering to customers who preferred Bentley's slightly less ostentatious image, while this badge engineering strategy allowed Rolls-Royce to maximize production efficiency while offering two distinct marques. The Rolls-Royce Silver Shadow, and by extension the Bentley T-Series, made its grand debut at the Earl's Court Motor Show in the autumn of 1965, instantly capturing the attention of both the public and the motoring press, with its radical departure from the marque's established design and engineering conventions, with Autocar magazine describing the Silver Shadow as the most advanced and intricate car the company has ever introduced, drawing particular attention to its groundbreaking self-leveling suspension system and the innovative adoption of the monocoque construction. Building on the initial success of the four-door saloon, Rolls-Royce sought to widen the Silver Shadow's appeal by introducing additional variants, and in early 1966, the range was expanded with the addition of a two-door fixed-head coupe, crafted by Monocoque Ward, with this elegant version offering a sleeker, more personal alternative to the formal saloon, aimed at buyers who desired exclusivity without sacrificing luxury. In 1967, a drop-head coupe version was added to the lineup, again assembled by Monocoque Ward, which provided open-air motoring with the same levels of craftsmanship and refinement, while alongside these, an even rarer two-door variant was produced by the independent coach builder James Young, with this model featuring a formal and conservative design in keeping with Rolls-Royce tradition, but only 35 examples were completed before production ceased in 1967, and it remains one of the rarest and most sought-after Silver Shadow derivatives. By 1969, the Silver Shadow had already established itself as a highly successful model for the company, but Rolls-Royce continued to refine and develop it to meet the evolving demands of its clientele, with that year seeing a significant enhancement be introduced with the debut of the long wheelbase variant, which offered an additional 4 inches of rear legroom, greatly improving comfort for rear-seat passengers and appealing particularly to those customers who employed chauffeurs. Simultaneously, in 1969, the company completed the transition to a fully standardized automatic transmission setup across all markets, with right-hand drive export models beginning to receive the GM Turbo Hydromatic 3-speed automatic gearbox, replacing the older 4-speed Hydromatic unit, and by the beginning of 1970, this newer transmission was fitted to all Silver Shadows, providing improved smoothness, durability, and ease of operation for both drivers and passengers. Also for 1969, Rolls-Royce introduced another major technical revision with the enlargement of the V8 engine's displacement, as by increasing the stroke, the capacity was raised from 6.2 litres to 6.75 litres, further enhancing the car's already impressive performance, with contemporary estimates placing the output at approximately 189 brake horsepower, with a substantial increase in torque available at lower engine speeds. By the close of 1970, the Silver Shadow and T-Series had established themselves as true commercial winners in the luxury motoring scene, with 16,717 Silver Shadows having been produced. However, in February 1971, the Rolls-Royce parent company collapsed into bankruptcy following the disastrous development of the RB211 high-bypass turbofan engine for the Lockheed L1011 TriStar, and the Rolls-Royce firm underwent a substantial audit by the official receiver in order to determine which elements of the company continued to remain financially solvent. For the luxury motorcar division, this was found to be operating well in profit thanks to the substantial success of the Silver Shadow range, and thus the official receiver recommended that Rolls-Royce Motors be spun off as its own independent company during 1973, allowing the car manufacturer to pursue its operations free from the financial burdens of its former parent company. However, the receiver also recommended some changes to the company's forward planning, with proposals at the time of the bankruptcy having been to see the two-door variants of the Silver Shadow be replaced by a newly developed model dubbed the Rolls-Royce Camargue, which was being styled externally by the Italian Carrozzeria Pininfarina and was expected for launch in either late 1972 or early 1973. Instead, the receiver considered that to ensure Rolls-Royce Motors' continued immediate financial viability during its transition into an independent company, the Camargue project be delayed instead to a launch date of 1975 at the earliest, while two-door variants of the Silver Shadow, which were still selling healthily despite their exclusivity, would remain in production for the foreseeable future, with these cars ultimately being spun off during 1971 from the Silver Shadow range and would form their own series of models under the Corniche title. By 1973, Rolls-Royce was producing approximately 2,700 Silver Shadows annually, a remarkable achievement for such an exclusive luxury marque that had historically operated on a far smaller scale, while the model benefited from a steady stream of incremental improvements that further honed its already impressive capabilities, including revisions to the anti-roll bars, resulting in slightly firmer suspension settings better suited to European road conditions, and continued development of the power steering systems for improved feel and ease of operation. As the 1970s progressed, external changes became more apparent, particularly in response to evolving American safety legislation, and from 1973 onwards, Silver Shadows destined for the United States were fitted with energy-absorbing black rubber bumper extensions and side marker lamps, features that, while necessary to meet regulations, altered the car's classic aesthetic and generated some controversy among traditionalists. In 1975, Rolls-Royce unveiled another expansion of the Silver Shadow platform with the introduction of the long-awaited Camargue, and although this machine was distinct in design and execution, the Camargue shared much of its underpinnings with the Silver Shadow, representing a bold and unconventional interpretation of Rolls-Royce design language, and was positioned at the very top of the Rolls-Royce range as an exclusive two-door Grand Tourer, with a price tag that made it the most expensive production passenger vehicle ever sold to that point. By late 1976, Rolls-Royce, in the face of increasingly stringent safety regulations, opted to reduce overhead by providing commonality among Rolls-Royces being dispatched to all markets, with this change manifesting in the form of rubber bumpers replacing the original chrome, though the designs for non-North American versions were more sympathetic to the car's traditional lines, being mounted closer to the body, with a more discreet projection that better preserved the Silver Shadow's graceful and dignified proportions. The following year of 1977 marked the formal introduction of the Silver Shadow 2, an extensively revised and improved iteration of the original design. As well, the Silver Shadow 2 retained the familiar silhouette that had become instantly recognizable. Beneath its refined exterior lay a number of important technical advancements that significantly enhanced the car's performance, handling, and comfort. Perhaps the most significant of these changes was the adoption of a rack and pinion steering system, with the outgoing recirculating ball setup, while traditional, having often been criticized for its vague feel, particularly at higher speeds or during more spirited driving, with the new steering arrangement transforming the car's driving dynamics, delivering a noticeably sharper and more precise response to driver input, while still maintaining the ease and lightness of control that Rolls-Royce customers expected. In parallel, the front suspension geometry was redesigned to complement the new steering system, further improving both stability and ride comfort, which remained a hallmark of the marque, while visually, the Silver Shadow 2 could be distinguished by its updated front-end treatment, with the polyurethane-faced bumpers now being standard across the range. Inside, the Silver Shadow 2 received a comprehensively redesigned dashboard and fascia, with instrumentation being consolidated and repositioned directly in front of the driver, improving visibility and ease of use, while a sophisticated split-level automatic air conditioning system was also introduced, as carried over from the Camargue, ensuring a more consistent and comfortable cabin environment regardless of external conditions. Furthermore, the long-wheelbase version, which had previously lacked a formal designation, was now officially named the Silver Wraith 2, and featured an Everflex covered roof, a smaller, more private rear window, and unique wheel covers, while for Bentley, the T-Series was rebranded as the T2, and gained similar alterations to that of the mainstream Silver Shadow range, with only 558 examples of the T2 saloon being produced, though an even smaller number of long-wheelbase T2 models were built that came to a mere 10 in total. In 1979, Rolls-Royce marked its 75th anniversary with a special commemorative edition of the Silver Shadow 2, with this limited run consisting of 212 examples, alongside a specially prepared Camargue that were distinguishable through the appearance of garnet red Rolls-Royce badges on the grille and boot lid, and special plaques fitted inside the glove compartment, while the North American anniversary models were offered exclusively in George and silver, with grey leather interiors that featured contrasting red piping and vibrant scarlet carpets. For this period, Rolls-Royce continued to attract a loyal clientele who valued the unique blend of refinement, craftsmanship, and understated prestige offered by the crew-built motorcars, and between 1977 and 1980, 8,425 examples of the Silver Shadow 2 were produced, while the Silver Wraith 2 accounted for an additional 2,136 units, which, when combined with earlier production figures, meant total output for the Silver Shadow series ultimately exceeded 30,000 units, securing its place as the most commercially successful model in Rolls-Royce's history up to that point. Sadly, Rolls-Royce's phenomenal run throughout the 1970s would come to an abrupt halt during 1979 with that year's oil crisis, which set the cost of fuel skyrocketing and began a recession that would permeate well into the 1980s, while on the luxury car front, demand slumped as buyers either opted to keep hold of the vehicles they already had or chose more frugal, less expensive but equally luxurious offerings from the likes of Mercedes-Benz and BMW. Rolls-Royce took this downturn particularly hard, with much of the reason as to its collapse in sales being the fact that the Silver Shadow, at 14 years of age and with styling that was firmly of 1960s thinking, looking starkly out of place amid a sea of more boxy and sharp-suited equivalents that eschewed lashings of chrome and wind tunnel sculpted lines in favor of sharp corners and straight edges. While the company had long considered a replacement for the Silver Shadow, the delays in development caused by the bankruptcy of 1971, together with various false starts on projects that ultimately went nowhere, meant the Silver Shadow and its enduring commercial success was simply used to keep the company buoyant throughout the 1970s, as successor projects fell quietly into the background. However, with the slump of 1979, Rolls-Royce faced an existential dilemma as its sales plummeted and its lack of a replacement model in sight for the Silver Shadow, and thus, amid a hastily developed refacing of the Shadow dubbed the SZ range, Rolls-Royce Motors accepted a takeover offer from Vickers plc, the last surviving element of the former Vickers Armstrong manufacturing empire. Vickers plc would push to have the new SZ range launched at the first opportunity, and thus a majority of the mechanical underpinnings of this car were carried directly over from the SY Silver Shadow, while its body styling abandoned the aristocratic chrome and regal sweeping curves in favor of an aesthetic more reminiscent of a Lincoln Town Car or Cadillac Fleetwood, bringing the Rolls-Royce firm up to contemporary standards. The SZ range would finally be unveiled towards the end of 1980 as the Silver Spirit and its long wheelbase Silver Spur range for Rolls-Royce, and as the Bentley Mulsanne, with these cars continuing to use many of the Silver Shadow's proven mechanical components, including the robust and much refined 6.75-litre V8 engine, while also featuring a redesigned interior with more modern ergonomics and further technological advancements that address the demands of a new generation of buyers. The production of the Silver Shadow officially ceased as the Silver Spirit entered the market, though some final examples were completed and delivered into 1981 to cover for the conversion of the Silver Spirit to the left-hand drive market, with a total of 30,057 examples of the Rolls-Royce Silver Shadow being manufactured. Meanwhile, only 2,336 Bentley T-Series cars were produced across both series and all body styles, with Bentley, by the end, representing only 7.7% of the total share of Rolls-Royce company sales, with this percentage being a motivating factor behind serious considerations for discontinuing the Bentley brand at several points during the late 1970s, though it would thankfully find a resurgence with the SZ range with the likes of the Mulsanne Turbo and Turbo R, turning Bentley from a barely present liability into one of Rolls-Royce's greatest assets by the end of the 1980s. When production of the Silver Shadow series finally concluded in 1980, its reputation began to evolve from a cutting-edge modern luxury saloon to an increasingly revered classic, though initially, the large numbers produced, combined with high running costs and complex maintenance requirements, led to a period during the late 1980s and into the 1990s when many examples were neglected or run on limited budgets. At a time when the values for many luxury saloons of its period collapsed, a significant proportion of Silver Shadows fell into disrepair or were broken up for parts, with this period of neglect creating a scarcity of high-quality, well-maintained examples, a situation that remains evident today, though consequently, surviving cars that have benefited from careful ownership, thorough maintenance and professional restoration are now becoming ever more sought after. In the present day, the Silver Shadow commands a devoted following across the world, with numerous specialist clubs, such as the Rolls-Royce Enthusiast Club, actively supporting owners with expert knowledge, a thriving parts supply network, and access to restoration professionals intimately familiar with the car's complex systems. And thanks to these communities and the dedication of individual owners, many Silver Shadows remain not only roadworthy, but also fully capable of providing the supreme comfort, hushed refinement, and smooth progress for which the marque is renowned. As for the Bentley T-Series, these cars represented perhaps the darkest hour of the Bentley brand, where the badge engineering between the two marques became so entrenched that there was little to nothing to distinguish the T-Series from the more widespread Silver Shadow, with this lack of recognition proving to nearly see the entire Bentley division discontinued by the end of the 1970s as Rolls-Royce's cash flows began to struggle. However, though the T-Series represents less than 8% of the total SY range build-out, it has also proven to become one of the rarest and most sought-after models in Bentley's long and distinguished history, with well-preserved examples being increasingly appreciated for both their understated elegance and mechanical sophistication, and though survival rates are modest, with many examples having succumbed to neglect, corrosion, or the high cost of maintenance, those that remain in fine condition represent some of the most refined and usable classic saloons of their era. Therefore, the Rolls-Royce Silver Shadow and Bentley T-Series hold a permanent place in popular culture and public consciousness, helped along by their numerous appearances in films and television as a means of immediately establishing wealth, power, and opulence, with notable owners including Freddie Mercury, despite him never holding a driver's license, and Princess Margaret, the younger sister of Queen Elizabeth II. Therefore, even 60 years after the first examples rolled off the Crewe production line, the SY Silver Shadow range is widely recognized as one of the most significant cars in Rolls-Royce history, representing a bold and successful departure from the marque's established traditions, introducing advanced technology, modern construction methods, and a new approach to luxury motoring that would influence Rolls-Royce design and engineering for decades to come. Ultimately, its blend of engineering excellence, refined styling, and effortless performance continues to captivate a new generation of classic car enthusiasts, and as the years pass, the Silver Shadow's stature as a true modern classic only grows stronger, with its enduring legacy firmly secured as a landmark in the story of Rolls-Royce.